Non-rockabotus must stop. I don't want to rock the boat. I want to sink it.
Are you going to bark all day, little doggy, or are you going to bite?
We're being delusional. I love you, Jeff.
Delusional, yeah. Delusional's okay in your worldview. I'm an animal. You don't chastise chickens for being delusional. You don't chastise pigs for being delusional. So you calling me delusional using your worldview is perfectly okay. It doesn't really hurt. She hung up on me.
What?
Desperate times call for faithful men and not for careful men. The careful men come later and write the biographies of the faithful men, lauding them for their courage.
Go into all the world and make disciples. Not go into the world and make buddies. Not to make brosives.
Right.
Don't go into the world and make homies.
Right.
Disciples.
I got a bit of a jiggle neck. That's a joke, Pastor.
When we have the real message of truth, we cannot let somebody say they're speaking truth when they're not.
Take an amazing journey to a place that will blow your mind and move your heart so you will never be the same again.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Apologia Radio. This is Deuteronomy 18, verse 9. When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering. Who burns his son or his daughter as an offering. Anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens or a sorcerer or a charmer or a medium or a necromancer or anyone who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord your God is driving them out before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord your God. For these nations which you are about to dispossess, listen to the fortune tellers and to the diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do this. And there you go, guys. That was Deuteronomy chapter 18, starting at verse 9. Powerful, powerful words from God from long ago, from a long time ago. I'm Jeff, they call me the Ninja. That's the Bear.
What up?
And that's the girl.
Yeah.
Back on Apologia Radio today. What's up, girl?
Not a lot.
Hey, you guys can catch, very good. You can catch Joy normally with Summer at Theologians, and you can access that, of course, through apologiastudios.com. Theologians, check them out, guys. If you haven't, make sure you guys do that, especially for all the ladies. Make sure you do that. Theologians with Joy and Summer. Summer's back, by the way. She lives in Arizona now, which is awesome.
She does.
It makes it much easier to produce Theologians.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't have to worry about that long drive.
Yeah.
You guys,
15 minutes now.
That's right. 15 minutes.
It's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome. I'm very excited about it.
6 hours.
That's right.
We're just slowly building that reform mecca here.
That's right. We are. We truly are. Hey guys, welcome, and apologiastudios.com is where you guys go to. You guys go to get more. APOLOGIA studios.com. Make sure you guys go check it out. We got tons and tons of radio content, podcasts, great scientists, theologians, scholars. Over the years, a lot of cultural engagement. And if you sign up for All Access, you partner with us as a ministry, making everything we do possible. So I say this often at the beginning of the show. Make sure you guys all understand this. If you have been blessed by the on-the-street evangelism, the teaching, the lectures, whatever you see on Apologia Studios platforms, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, whatever the case may be, somebody partnered with Apologia Studios to make it all possible, and they did it through All Access. When you sign up for All Access, you get all the content. You get additional content like the TV show, the after show, Apologia Academy. Really great stuff. Very excited for what God has in store even for Apologia Academy over the next few months. We're praying for some very big things. Very excited about it. And today we're talking about one of my very favorite subjects, behind the scenes. Everyone here at Apologia Studios knows this is something that I spent a lot of time investigating, spending time in, and it really, for me, came about early on, I'd say well, it's been a long time, but I mean, really in particular, focusing in upon this issue. It came about because somebody that I love, a family member, who's not a believer, went into this, and it redefined human history for them. It gave them a perspective, a particular metaphysic or a view of what is real, the doctrine of being, what exists, and why it does. And so I went deep into sort of the sources, Sitchin and all the rest, all the big names, and it's an important one. And as time is going by, this particular subject about UFOs, that's the old term, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, this is getting more and more popular by way of guys like Bob Lazar on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Steven Greer. You've got the guy from Blink-182, big and heavy into this right now. And, of course, it is becoming more and more popular because, as of late, the government itself is beginning to release videos, information that is peculiar. You need to see it to believe it. You can't deny it. So here's what I'm saying. We're talking about UFOs, aliens, and the occult today.
To not just be something
and I'll just play this video and let you guys jump in here. This is not one of those things, and this is probably a pet peeve that I can announce here. What I don't like is when, as Christians, we get the reputation where somebody provides evidence from their perspective, even if it's spurious evidence. They provide evidence, they put something in front of you, and Christians wave the hand and don't give an answer that's appropriate, that's solid, logical, reasonable, biblical. I don't think that's what we're supposed to be doing. And of course, there's a command in Scripture, 1 Peter 3:15, to sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to give an apologia, a reasoned defense to everyone who asks of you a reason for the hope that's within you, yet do it with gentleness and with reverence. Now, that's the command of Scripture, and of course, many of us recognize that in the area of, say, Mormonism or Islam or Jehovah's Witnesses or feminism or socialism or Marxism, all that. But in this weird area, we talk about UFOs, I think it's such a peculiar area. Christians just sort of check out, wave the hand, and say, oh, demons, and that's it. But we have...
or sometimes they say, well, God never specifically said he didn't. Sort of the, I don't know, maybe there are other beings,
evolved
on different
species
planets.
on another planet. Exactly.
I would even be halfway satisfied if someone just said demons, but I think most of the time Christians are just like, that's stupid.
Right.
They don't even have an explanation.
No response.
That's
right.
fake. It's
And that's a good point, Luke, because when you look at a video like this, this came out a while ago. It was leaked a long time ago, this particular footage here. But the Pentagon recently, as of the last week and a half, released 3 particular videos and declassified them that are UAPs or UFOs. And let's be honest, can't get away from it. Can't do it. When you have a military fighter jet, honing in on a particular object that is defying the laws of physics, that is going faster than the jet can, that is changing direction in an impossible way, you got to be able to answer it. And you got to be able to provide a biblical worldview answer that doesn't simply wave the hand. And let me just say this. These guys know right here, I am so excited about Dr. Steven Greer's film, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, because they laid their cards all on the table, and I'm absolutely grateful to God for it. They just laid it on the table, and you will learn what that means.
Yeah, he has no idea, how we're like, yeah. Yeah, duh.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Thank you very, very
for
much
just
for
being
that.
honest.
Yes, exactly. And you'll see why. We titled the show, I forget which order the words are here, Aliens, UFOs, and the Occult, because you will see it today. We are going to play clips from the new film by Dr. Steven Greer. He actually announced it on Fox News. That's where I heard about it. But anyway, here is the footage from the Pentagon, recently declassified. I believe this is just one of them, but it's pretty interesting footage. So here you go.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing! It's rotating.
Echo 6-1 Tango Apologia, over.
Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Roger, there's troubleshooting.
Did you box moving target?
602.
No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly!
Oh, there's one more here. And so there you go. All right, so I do want to apologize for the language. I'll go ahead and tell you ahead of time, if you have children in the room, just be aware of the fact that there is going to be language in a lot of this. I can't do anything about it. I'm going to be playing through clips of Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and I don't have time to bleep all the stuff out. So there'll be some language in this, and again, I can't do anything about it, so I apologize for that. But it's an important discussion to have, and I just want to point your attention to the fact that on that first clip there, from those pilots, you had an object that was defying the laws of physics, and you can see it with your own eyes. This is not somebody's home video footage of them looking at some strange light in the sky above their house. This is something that is actually acknowledged by the military, declassified. There are these things that exist that we apparently don't have an explanation for in some respects. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And you guys want to help lead into any of this right now? Do you have anything in your mind before I get going?
I was just going to say, I feel like not that many people are talking about the Pentagon releasing the videos.
Right.
Which, considering that, how long ago was it that people were like going to storm Area 51?
Oh, yeah, that's right. No,
doesn't that seem like an eternity ago?
I think that was pre-COVID.
Wait, when did that happen?
I know. If it happened before coronavirus, it seems like it was 5 years ago. But I'm pretty sure it was within the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah. I think they're gonna redesignate time now. It's gonna be like BC, not before
Corona,
Christ, but
before Corona,
before COVID, and after COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get right into this, guys. We're going to play clips from this film. This is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And let me just go ahead and at least sort of set this up and start you off in the discussion here. So this film is actually very interesting. It's available on YouTube and iTunes, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. We're going to play through a substantial portion at the beginning here so you sort of get the ground underneath you, understand kind of where this is coming from. It's a fascinating film because I just want to say it outright. They have actual footage of contact with entities that are responsive to them, and you just need to know that. There is, I guess, never before seen footage in this film of them out in the desert trying to communicate with these entities, and I'm going to explain more about that later. And these entities respond to their communication, and they have footage of it. Some of the footage is quite fascinating. So if you guys want to get a chance to check out the film, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, Contact Has Begun. Dr. Steven Greer is responsible for this film. It's very well done. I just got to say that. Great documentary. It's very well done. Cinematography-wise, it doesn't look like a silly YouTube video. It's well done. And it starts off, and I explained this to Luke last week, I believe. It starts off with very sort of here's the evidence from the government. You can't deny this. Sounds very scientific and very sort of, let's observe the evidence. Let's not turn our heads from it. And you're like, all right, that's interesting. Wow, that's some serious footage. And then the switch. It goes right to where I was surprised that it was wow, half the film is dedicated to an encouragement and a training session on how to engage in the occult.
Yeah, he's not secretive about it, and I guess maybe it's just because he would reject that, like, I don't know, he would reject that it's like a new age practice. He thinks he's actually engaging in like some sort of scientific something, maybe.
He does, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and there's a lot of support for that today because you've got guys like Larry Dawsey. With
That's all over the secular world.
Oh, completely.
People sort of stripping the like new age occult characteristics of something in the name of science or health, even like with like tripping for your mental health, like on DMT or ayahuasca or whatever.
Exactly. There's sort of a scientific veneer put over what are historically...
Even though when you get down to it, it's like, oh, well, what was your scientific test? It's like, oh, we went out into the desert and we chanted.
Yeah.
For science.
Yeah, for science. We
it's
talked
like,
to an alien.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yep,
I'm sure you talked to somebody.
Yeah, there was definitely something going on.
So can you explain who Steven Greer is for those like myself who has no idea who that is?
Yeah, Dr. Steven Greer, he was just on Fox News. So when the Pentagon dropped declassified the footage and they dropped it. It was all over the media last week. Fox News, one of the first people they went to and to comment on it was Dr. Steven Greer.
Okay.
Dr. Steven Greer has consulted with the military, heads of staff of different military organizations. He's very popular in this field of UFOs, alien contact, UAPs, all of that. So he's a very well-respected and regarded person in this field, Dr. Steven Greer. But there is no question, after you see this film, you'll see Dr. Steven Greer, for all of his being erudite and scientific in some areas of this field, he is into occultism. I mean, these are essentially seances that they're performing in the desert to talk to other entities.
Well, and I think he has been trained in some meditation type things, but he's a big guy in the UFO community.
He's recognized as a very serious authority to contend with.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, so here we go. This is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Again, we're going to play a substantial portion of the beginning here, so you can I want you to wait to hear it. Listen for it, okay? Listen to the presuppositions and the worldview behind the examination. Look, no, there are no brute facts, friends. Get that. Very important. There are no brute facts. Facts are always interpreted, and they're interpreted via our worldview. There are no brute facts. There always is a presupposition underneath that helps to interpret the fact, give it any meaning. And you have to understand, when you're listening to this documentary or watching it, these aren't just brute facts. There is a worldview driving the entire documentary. And let's just see if you can hear it. Here you go.
We are living through the most extraordinary moment in human history. After decades of denial and ridicule, government officials and the mainstream media are admitting that extraterrestrial civilizations are visiting Earth. But there's a twist. The same people and institutions who lied about ETs and just about everything else are now framing the extraterrestrial presence as a threat.
And we are seriously thinking of the Space Force.
One man has been trying to warn us about this for decades.
If you're seeing this, it's because I'm either dead or have been entrapped or have disappeared.
Most of us are ill-prepared for open contact with an advanced ET civilization. As our expanding cosmology outgrows our theological institutions, modern human society...
Did you catch it? As our expanding cosmology outgrows our theological institutions. Go ahead, Joy. You were going to say something?
I already forgot what I was going to say. It was the thing you said right before that. Oh, they use the word civilizations, but just so you know, like, that's a little trick because there's not actually discovered any civilizations of aliens.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Just throw it out there.
It was a nice. Yeah. It was a good intro, but
just
interesting.
The assumptions loaded in.
Right. Yeah.
These other civilizations. Really, you've discovered this. You know this scientifically, observationally, empirically.
They're not like, there's no like. They're not calling another planet and going, "Hi, we're on Earth. Are you on another planet?" And someone's going, "Yes, we're on another planet. And there's lots of us." Like, that hasn't happened.
You're not talking about the Aztecs?
No. But I wanted you to look. That's within the first minute and a half. What do you have? as our understanding of this outgrows our theological institutions. That's a minute and a half into this documentary, and what do you already have suggested? An entirely new cosmology, an entirely new metaphysic. There's got to be an epistemology underneath this in terms of how you know what you know, and you're going to find that near the end of the film of how do I know I'm making contact. This is a whole new worldview that's paganism and occultism is ultimately what it's a oneist worldview. Dr. Peter Jones was on with Apologia a while back. Go watch his stuff on oneism and twoism. All pagan religion, all man-made religion is ultimately a oneist religion versus a twoist religion, creation distinction, which is a distinct element of the biblical worldview. This is oneist. All is one. We are one. We're part of this evolving one universe. We're all just another aspect of it. So here we go. This next part. Watch.
Is spiraling into decadence, narcissism, depravity, and nihilism.
Catch me outside, how about that?
If we want to truly understand ETs, their technology, and their intentions, we have to readdress our assumptions about the nature of reality and our relationship with the physical universe.
Isn't that phenomenal? It's all loaded up front.
Right.
What we're suggesting to you is an ethic, because there's complaint about the Cash Me Outside girl. Like, you're talking about narcissism and all the rest. It's like, well, who cares? Like, it's all one universe. We're all evolved species. There's these other civilizations that evolved in the same universe. Like, what are you talking about? Morality? So there's an ethic involved here. There's a metaphysic. There's a cosmology.
Listen, the Cash Me Outside, how about that girl needs to learn a lesson from higher evolved beings.
Right.
Maybe they're saying that she's an alien. She's from a different civilization.
I'm sure there's another group.
Maybe she's saying, catch me outside the universe.
What's her
the
name?
Galaxy.
Bad Baby?
Bad
or
Baby.
whatever.
Yeah. That girl is bad. She's bad. Yes.
She's the OG nasty girl.
I'm pretty sure she's like 14.
Her mom needs to be put over someone's leg and spanked herself, letting her go like that. Anyway, so
that's not what this episode.
Yeah, this is different. That's a different episode. So I just look. More could be played in the beginning there. I just wanted to play that portion. Luke, you have something to say?
I was just going to say thanks to Amanda. I just saw she popped in there and dropped a little donation, so thank you.
Oh, right on.
Sorry.
Oh,
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next portion we wanted to play for you, and then we'll probably go to commercial break, is this I found amazing, and you need to hear it. So, sorry, some of this got a little jacked up here at the... load. Okay, there we go. All right, so this next portion here, very, very important. These are all, excuse me, all near the beginning of the film. I hate Max.
I was going to say stupid Max.
Stupid Max. Sorry.
You got to get yourself
one of those.
Yeah.
So this is about 17 and a half minutes into the film, and I want you to listen to more of the worldview stuff loaded in. Remember this in the discussion about aliens, UFOs, UAPs, Dr. Steven Greer's film. None of this is just brute fact. It is not. You're going to see the worldview driving this, and it is on full display. Hang with us. This is going to be a little longer episode. You got to hang with us to the end. I'm giving you guys all the foundations. I can't play through the whole entire film, but you need to hear this stuff. It's all worldview driven. So here we go. About 17 and a half minutes into the film, you just got to watch this whole portion.
2 of his many landmark cases before becoming a whistleblower and legal counsel for the Disclosure Project in 2001.
It's helpful, of course, for them to say, oh, UFOs are real. That's quite helpful. We've been trying to get people to understand that now for the last 30 years. But it's all immediately wedded to this fact that they're this horrible threat. And so we had to come forward with a positive set of programs, a positive vision for this. And that's what I'm trying to help get the Vatican and the Jesuit order to become involved in putting forth, a discussion about the theological and philosophical challenges that this presents to us. But it's not a national security threat. It's not a threat to our species. It's not a threat to our planet. It's a threat to our view as ourselves as the be-all and end-all, that the entire universe was created as a stage on which to play out the human drama.
Wow, it's great. It's all.
I mean, that's basically That's basically it right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is all just a play.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's fascinating to me that, gosh, these guys are so erudite and so professional looking, and you have it all loaded up front. Like we really are trying to convince the Vatican and the Jesuit order to start dealing with these things, and it's a whole new theological understanding, and it's understand what's happening here. This is a understanding about origins, cosmology, metaphysics, that comes from their worldview, right? They reject Jesus, the biblical worldview, and so they're trying to come up with some answer for these entities that are making contact, and I do believe they're making contact for sure. And they're engaging in things I read at the beginning of this episode. God commands explicitly against, because you try to make contact with other entities in another realm, you may not like what comes to talk to you.
And at first, you might.
Yeah, at first it might be very interesting.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking for evidence of a world without God. So, I mean, just because something's working and something is giving you information or giving you a physical sensation in the beginning, like, it doesn't necessarily, just because something feels or seems good doesn't necessarily mean that it is.
It sounds like you're holding to a Christian worldview when you say that. But what's interesting here is that, look, in Deuteronomy 18, I can cite more examples, like Paul talking about pharmakia, the taking of drugs to get into an altered state of consciousness, to communicate with the other side, all that stuff. Scripture condemns this because, listen, it's real. When you engage in these practices, you open yourself up not to like God and angels and like the beautiful bliss and light. You open yourself up to demonic activity. When you try to talk to a dead relative, what comes back is not the dead relative. It's demonic. And there's these stories can be multiplied over and over and over again. But I mean, God warns against this stuff in Deuteronomy 18, 9 and on. Listen, the whole thing with, like, today, popular stuff, I think we've even talked about this, the DMT, Joe Rogan talking about DMT, the trips, and like his mind has been changed because he's had legitimate contact with entities through DMT, people taking ayahuasca, all that stuff. Listen, look, pagans have been doing this forever. And they take these drugs, they do these trips, they get into these seances and these altered states of consciousness to communicate with the other side. And listen, we have to be real with it, they make contact. But if you don't have a biblical worldview, you don't know what you're making contact with. And God tries to preserve and protect his people very early on in his law against this kind of occultic divination, necromancy, communication with the other side. But it's in vogue right now.
Right. Well, yeah, and we've talked about this before, so this is sort of common knowledge. But in case anyone who's listening is curious as to how, like, what you're saying even relates to Greer, he has been very open. The Disclosure Project has largely been him taking groups of people out into the middle of the desert. They set up shrines. Sometimes they do mind-altering drugs. They meditate. So we're not just talking, like, we're actually talking about people who are engaging in actual occultic, new age stuff. We're not just like connecting the two because he claims he's made contact. Sometimes it's like, sometimes people just go out to the desert with Greer and they see like lights in the sky. But the point is, I want you guys to be aware of is that they're meditating, they're engaging in forms of not just like but like transcendental meditation.
Exactly. And they're going to explain that here.
Yeah,
I'm going to play some of these clips so you guys can hear exactly what Joy is talking about. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. We're going to take a quick break. Just stay with us because this is where the exciting stuff is coming. I'm going to play after the break the next portion. I'd love to do 6 hours on this, but I want to get you guys into the next portion where after the ground is laid in terms of like a new theological understanding, new cosmology. You know, this is what we're trying to make people understand is that we're not the main players. Like, you know, the universe wasn't, you hear what he said? The universe wasn't created for us. And like we're not the stars of the show. Well, in one sense, as a Christian, I would say, well, because it's created for God and his glory.
Right.
But you know what? The truth is yes, it was. in a nuanced sense, the universe was created to play out this human drama of redemption, where the image of God, in fact, is the star of the show.
Right.
It ultimately is Jesus, right, as the image of God. So the human drama actually is the main point, because it's what brings glory to God through the story of redemption in Jesus, the perfect human and image of God. Do you get it? So do you get the point? It's a subtle rejection, it seems. Like, we're not the main stars of the show. Like, there's all these other entities and civilizations. Like, we're an important part of it, but this is the evolutionary process of the universe. And do you get it? It's oneist. It's a oneist perspective of reality. And it's the universe is just humming along however it came into existence. We don't know, but we're all part of this one cosmos, and all is one. Guys, that's paganism through and through. That's been the story from every pagan religion forever. And now it gets a really sweet and shiny scientific veneer, right? Like right on top of it. When in reality, it's the same battle that was playing out in Deuteronomy 18. It's the same battle that's taking place in Corinth in the first century. It's the same thing over and over and over again. But you're going to hear it explicitly. So stay tuned, because you're going to hear it from Steven Greer's own mouth, and we got some more stuff to share with you that's just interesting in terms of how this plays out in other realms too, like medicine. So stay with us. ApologiaStudios.com is where you guys are going to go to get more. APOLOGIA Studios.com. Make sure you share this episode. Hey, important stuff, because listen, let's be honest, not everyone's talking about this on the Christian side.
Right.
And we need to have a solid Christian response, and you need to hear it from their own mouths. That's the bear. And that's the girl. We'll be right back.
We want students who can think critically about arguments, but also about the culture around them. They can then speak clearly to it, and then also have the ability to influence and shape because of the power of their message. Because that's really what the gospel does. The gospel throws down all the arguments against it. It speaks to the hearts of people, it influences, and it changes.
The goal for New St. Andrews College, as it trains its students, is not to make people who will be able to go out and just get jobs, people who will just be bricks in the wall of our society. The goal for New St. Andrews College is to make students into men and women who will really impact culture.
Go to apologiastudios.com, get signed up, partner with us in all access. You get all of the radio programs, you get the TV show, you get the after show, including Apologia Academy, and you partner with us in ministry, bringing the gospel around the world. What's up, guys? Welcome back, Apologia Radio. ApologiaStudios.com is where you go to get more. Everybody, welcome to the live stream. Everybody around the world right now in quarantine. That's Luke the Bear. I'm the Ninja. That's the girl right there. And we are talking today about aliens, UFOs, UAPs, and the occult by way of Dr. Steven Greer's new film, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I actually skipped the portion where I should have played it. But you might be asking the question, like, what's a close encounter of the fifth kind? Because I've seen the film. That's the third kind. Like, what's the fifth kind?
Well, and then there was a movie called The Fourth Kind.
The fourth kind, yes, exactly. Fourth kind is
he had to
bring it up.
Do one more number.
Yeah. So you saw me do this because the fourth kind is like 3 is where you see an alien entity, right? That's the third.
Right.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg's film. Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind is where you're abducted, right? You're taken onto a ship.
Mhm.
Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is where you make intentional contact with alien entities, whether across the universe, in some other dimension, via the mind, non-locality, that kind of stuff. And you'll hear in a minute how this sort of bleeds out into Era 3 medicine, Larry Dossey, some specific forms of even chiropractic care called Corin-Specific Technique, or KST. And I hope if some of you guys have been involved in that, you'll hear today, don't run far and fast from any KST practitioner. It is occultism disguised as medicine. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to jump right back into this, guys. We got a lot to go through here. This is another portion of the film. It's about 19 and a half minutes in, and I want you all to hear it. Here we go.
Called the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, run by an official named Luis Elizondo.
I think this is a national security imperative. We have clear things that we do not understand how they work, operating in areas that we can't control.
One of my first cases coming out of law school was for NBC to establish the right of journalists to protect their confidential news sources. I did the amicus briefs for the New York Times and the Washington Post, and also for CBS and ABC. And it was at that time that I began to realize that there was this close working relationship between the board of editors of the New York Times and the national security community. That there's conversations going on all the time between the board of editors and the national security people. And we actually got an affidavit from Teddy Sorensen saying that, oh yes, the national security state and CIA and everybody consult regularly with the New York Times to get them not to tell information about covert operations that we're engaged in. I was surprised to find that out at that point. I began to do an investigation about this as the lawyer for the Times now and for NBC, and found out that there were 42 full-time Central Intelligence Agency, or NSA, people employed by the major national news media. And they had a whole entire project called Project Mockingbird. And that they were deeply embedded with the major national news media, and they were constantly, from their point of view, safeguarding the information that was going to be allowed to get out.
Okay, so that point there, I just wanted you guys to hear, and I just want to acknowledge this. Don't doubt it for a second. I don't doubt it for a second that the government's involved in communication with media and the story that gets out and the narrative. Don't doubt it for a second. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist or a tinfoil hat wearing weirdo to say that takes place. No problem whatsoever. But the point being made in the film here is that the government is right now doing something dangerous, because what they're trying to do is influence this massive hysteria or understanding of the entities, that they are evil. They want to make an interplanetary war with us, that we should be fearful of them. Listen, this is building to the case that Dr. Steven Greer is making in the film later, that these are lovely entities, and they only want our good, and they want to help us, and we need to make contact with them to show them, like, no, we're open to you. We're open to you. We want to make contact with you. We want to have a relationship. He uses the word relationship with you, and we need to reject the government conspiracy that these are evil, they want to make war with us, all that stuff. So that's what that portion
is that is the old Bilbo Baggins looking dude. Is that him? Is that Steven Greer?
That's not Steven
No.
Greer.
I don't know who that guy is.
No, that's not.
It didn't. I never saw his name come across. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no.
But he does look like old Bilbo.
He does.
Yeah.
So that's a guy. No, you have to say something about the guy's appearance. He's a very unique look, and there's no question about that. But that's not Steven Greer. All right. So next, now we're going to move right into CE5 sighting, close encounter of the fifth kind sighting. Now, I want to be completely honest. they have footage in this film of them out in the desert or in the wilderness doing these seances, speaking to other entities, trans-dimensional entity kind of stuff, non-local perspective. In other words, the human mind communicating not physically, but through the universe in some sense, some other dimension. And guys, look, they have footage of them out doing this stuff, and these lights appearing, doing what they're asking, and zipping across, up and down, turn left, it goes this direction, coming through them, weird lights coming through them. I mean, watch the film, you'll see it. But there's an answer for it. There are no brute facts. Right? No brute facts. Presuppositions and worldview underneath this drive the interpretation of the facts. So this is about 47 minutes, 50 seconds into the film. You'll see some CE5 sightings here, and then you start hearing the explanation.
From, say, the Andromeda Galaxy, that's 2.5 million light years away. So at the speed of light, it would take 2.5 million years for them to get here. The speed of light's too slow. You cannot go from point A to B through the cosmos through a linear system of transportation. Moreover, you cannot communicate through those distances with something at the speed of light, which is what your cell phone and all these radio frequency electromagnetic communication devices we use now on Earth are using. Any civilization that is here, that is interstellar, by definition, is transdimensional. They're passing through other dimensions and dropping out of linearity and going from A to B, boom, almost like a teleportation where it's that resonant effect from point A to B. Any communications systems that these ETs have are also going at the speed of not light, but of thought, a quanta of thought. We think of consciousness and thought as this sort of amorphous, irrelevant, interesting, but mystical thing. But the central operating system and communication system for all interstellar civilizations is consciousness and thought, and technologies that interface with them.
God, prana, chi, magic, consciousness. Every culture throughout history has had a word to describe this intangible energy that connects everyone and everything. Decades of laboratory studies show that our minds have a mysterious ordering effect on quantum level phenomena, despite overwhelming scientific evidence.
And there you go. So this is actually a very well-known discussion. If you can investigate this, look up Larry Dossey, D-O-S-S-E-Y. You can look up Era 3 medicine. You can look up non-locality. We're talking about things on the quantum level. And this is very popular today. Like I said, I'm going to play for you guys here in a minute. Essentially, this is ancient occultic pagan worldview, now sort of streamlined into, say, Era 3 medicine, non-locality, the way of thinking about the universe, ourselves, our minds. So what Dr. Steven Greer is suggesting here is that these entities, because they're so much more advanced than we are, and because they're coming from, star systems that are so many millions and millions of light years away from us, they don't communicate the way we do through cell phones or things that are at the speed of light or what have you. They're communicating on a quantum level. They're communicating with non-locality. They're communicating via mind and thought. And so what Dr. Steven Greer begins to suggest is the way to communicate with these entities is in the way that their advanced civilizations allow them to, and that's via meditation, thought, mind, and those sorts of things. So it really is occultism, and that's what Dr. Steven Greer ultimately is engaging in. He can try to say it's scientific and it's communicating with entities and civilizations from another star system, but in reality he's engaging in ancient pagan practices and occultic practices that God warns about in Deuteronomy 18. People have been doing this for a long time, and that's what he's doing. So this goes from a realm of empiricism, observation, evidence, UFOs, military, documentation, into, okay, now we need to have CE5 contact, close encounter of the fifth kind, where we become the willing participants to make contact with the entities. So you hear Dr. Steven Greer in the thing talking about, like, you know, I can sort of like quiet myself, get into like a transcendental meditative state, and I can try to search with my mind and try to call out to these entities somewhere in the universe, and I can find one in which galaxy he's in, and I can try with my mind to invite this entity to me. And what's amazing, Luke, is they come.
Oh yeah, go figure.
They come.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see that here in a second. Anything you want to say?
We should mention that Joy had to go feed Georgia, so that's why
That's right.
Joy didn't get abducted.
No, she didn't have a fourth encounter.
So
no.
That's why Joy left. Also, I was just gonna mention quickly that we've had Gary Bates on twice from Creation Ministries International. Once for his book Alien Intrusion, and then for the film Alien Intrusion. And I don't know, it's been several years since we've had him on, but so everything we're talking about, this is stuff you can go and if you haven't read his book or seen the film, you should. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it really does a really good job of explaining all this. So this is stuff we've talked about in the past. So when you saw this, one reason you were excited because you were like, this is what we've been saying. This is exactly what we've been saying,
and they're admitting
now
it.
they're admitting it, and there's proof.
And they're putting it on film. Exactly. It was very exciting for me to see. Look, the cards are on the table.
Yeah.
By the way, we are actually in production today, actually, after this show, for the next cultish series of episodes talking about exactly this. But listen, very exciting. We have somebody who claims to be an insider. We're talking about contact with government and those sorts of things that it's known to be occultic, this stuff. And I'm going to just say, it's going to be an interesting episode to talk to this person and the claims that they're making. So this isn't the only thing we're going to do on this. You're going to hear a continued discussion of this through an Apologia Studios production called Cultish. If you haven't listened to it yet, check it out. Cultish is a very good production and a very helpful ministry and program. All right, so next portion, and I think we're almost done here. You know what? Actually, let me do this first, because this is very interesting. You heard me mention a few times something called KST, Koran-specific technique, non-locality, Larry Dawsey, Era 3 medicine, those sorts of things. I'm doing that because our church had to actually engage this issue a couple of years ago. We had some members of our body who were unfortunately impacted by a local chiropractor who was practicing KST. We discovered as pastors what was actually being done. We investigated it, did a long study of what was actually believed and being done in these medical offices, and we did an official sermon before our church. It's almost 2 hours long, demonstrating to our church this stuff was occultic and unsafe and those sorts of things. So we knew this world very well. But listen, understand that these worlds are connected. Dr. Steven Greer's world, very, very connected to what Larry Dawsey is suggesting about quantum level, non-locality, communicating from mind to mind. I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to show you how it actually bleeds into other realms. It's a worldview that is now sort of feeding into other practices as well, not just communication with beings, interstellar, trans-dimensional, even at times, beings from across the universe, but also it's in medical practice. Chiropractic care. By the way, we have an amazing chiropractor that's like the best on the planet.
She's straight Puritan.
She's like an old school Puritan, the best in the world. She does James, Dr. White. She does all of us, our kids. She's phenomenal and does real medicine, the physical stuff. But just here, I'll let you hear it for yourself. This is a guy named Dr. Kevin Ross describing KST, and listen to if you can hear the connections. That's what I want you guys to watch for.
What I want to give to you today is just a modeling of exactly the conversation I would have a patient that comes into my office right before we adjust them. So I would just say, Mrs. Smith, at this point, what we're doing is we're ready to go and get you adjusted. To get you adjusted, we're going to do some work that's called KST, and it stands for Koran Specific Technique. And it's based on what I told you earlier at the poster, that everything your body needs to do is controlled through the nervous system. Your brain talks to the body talks back to the brain. That's all controlled through the nervous system. Well, with KST, it's even a little bit deeper level than that. Understand that everything, absolutely everything that your body needs, your body knows. There is nothing that your body isn't aware of, and it has to for us to stay alive. If you inhale a virus right now, your body knows it's a virus because it has a different response than if it was a bacteria. If you put something into your mouth, your body would recognize it, whether that's a poison or a food, and what to take out as nutrition, what to pass on as waste. If you cut yourself, your body knows where it cut, how deep it's cut, and how to heal that. It has to. Everything that your body needs, your body knows. And KST is a way to get out of your body what your body knows for itself. And we do that by using what's called an occipital drop check. An occipital drop check is a binary feedback loop, ones and zeros, ons and off, yes and no. And what we use is what's called an occipital drop check to get out of the body that check. And it's a no and a yes response. And it works a lot like a lie detector test does. With a lie detector test, they hook you up to electronics, ask you yes and no questions, and they measure that physiological change on a machine. Well, with KST, instead of hooking up electronics to measure that yes and no response, we feel for that with again, this occipital drop check. And what we'll be doing then is checking on the back of your head, and we'll ask the body a question and then feel, is it no or is it yes? A no will stay even, a yes drops low on the left. And so we're just going to go through an entire series of questions to get out of your body what your body knows needs to be adjusted. Those yes and no questions were...
So you have an example there of actually what is similar to... You guys have seen the pendulums? You ever seen those? Pendulums ask you... All that is binary response, yes or no. Now, in ancient cultures, this was at times pendulums and these sorts of things... And these devices were used to get a response from the spiritual entity on the other side, or the universe, or whatever, an answer of yes or no, right or left, up or down. But in this case, you have a KST practitioner, corn-specific technique, practicing something that is based upon non-locality. It's Era 3 medicine. It's where you communicate with mind to mind, and you're asking the body, the physical body, you're asking a question with your mind at times. They'll even say that, like at times, I'm going to say it verbally. I'll ask your body the question verbally. What's wrong? Is it in the left shoulder, the right shoulder? You know, the occipital drop is the yes or no binary response. This is just the modern pendulum, is all it is with KST. This right here is the pendulum. It's all it is. It's the tool for the communication from mind to mind. But other times, KST practitioners will just say it outright. And then I won't even have to ask the question out loud. I'll ask it with my mind. And did you know that some of these KST practitioners will actually tell their clients as they go away on vacation, call me when you're on vacation and I'll give you a session while you're on vacation. Well, however would you do that? I'm going to be in New York. You're in Arizona. Well, I'll talk to you over the phone, and I will talk to your body from here, non-local. I can communicate from my body to your body all the way to New York with my mind. It's, again, Era 3, Larry Dossey, KST, all that stuff. Listen, this stuff is it's a pagan worldview, occultic worldview, and it's taking what were in ancient pagan cultures known devices and methodologies, and it's now sort of respinning them, repackaging them into modern medicine, into talking to alien civilizations, all the rest. Guys, it's just occultism. It's ancient, it's pagan, and now it's being used to delude people into this as a scientific methodology of communication. It's not. It's a well-known old tool and device of the enemy. And okay, so last portion here. I think this is the last clip we're going to play of this. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is Steven Greer describing more of the process.
They were very interested in this. And then we kind of merged together in our meditation, and I created with them this protocol for making contact with them.
2 years later, Dr. Greer attempted to recreate the experience during a meditation teacher training course in the French Alps, resulting in the first mass witness CE5.
What we experienced in France was really life-changing for me. It was the summer of 1975, and that was the year we both turned 20. When we were in teacher training, it was very intensive. We were meditating, doing yoga, listening to endless tapes of Maharishi.
So I did a deep meditation, went into this state, and could sense where in space these ET crafts were. connected to them, introduced myself by name, and then vectored them like you would vector a jet into JFK Airport.
All of a sudden, right out of nowhere, appeared a metallic, silent, tetrahedron-shaped silver ship. It just appeared. And I said, "What is that, Steve?" There was no sound. And it was just suspended in the air and then gone. And there was just the blue sky again.
It will happen if you do it with just a pure state of innocence about it. And that's when I realized that this can actually be done with groups of people. And I just filed that away.
Snoopy 2, if you would, turn towards the tower and show me your light so I can look over that way with the glasses. Snoopy 2, roger. We got, I don't know where they got to now. There was 2 of them. They were low, and then they went to about 4,000 foot and started circling. There was 2 of them, no navigation lights at all on.
In 1977, Dr. Greer discovered how precisely he could vector ETs to a specific location. Upon reconnecting with those beings using the CE5 protocols, he showed them his location in the Blue Ridge Mountains, but first directed them to where he was born and raised, in Charlotte, North Carolina. Then he went to sleep.
2 objects over the Coliseum. Yeah, I do have something. I got a Cessna out there eastbound. I don't know what the other one is. Negative, you got 2 of them out here and it keeps circling.
Unbeknownst to him, that attempt to initiate contact precipitated a major sighting over Charlotte involving pilots and air traffic control. An insider has leaked the FAA traffic control tapes that corroborated the encounter.
Snoopy 2, no sir, I'm not paying the target right now. Never did, Roger. We got something out here flying around. I don't believe in flying saucers, but it ain't aircraft, so I don't know what it is.
What I experienced was that I'm awakened, and there's this kind of beautiful cobalt blue ship, maybe 20 feet above the ground outside my window, the bedroom window. This wakes up my housemate, who's in the bedroom adjacent to mine. He comes running out, says, "What did you do?" And the lesson from that was the specificity of the vector. In other words, I was very specific. I vectored them first to Charlotte, showed them where Charlotte was, the epicenter where all this was going on, was over the part of Charlotte where I was born and all that, and then guided them from there up here. And I think what they were saying to me is, we can be very specific with instructions, and we'll show you that. It was a teachable moment. And I sort of felt like I really shouldn't do this unless I have some higher purpose to.
There you go. Well, guys, it's a 2-hour film. I can't play through all of it, but if you want to watch an interesting documentary that just lays all the cards on the table, go for it. I think it's actually worth your time if you're going to be ready to have this conversation with people. And look, understand that the cards are on the table for Dr. Steven Greer in terms of Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It's when you are trying to make direct contact with these entities via meditation, via your mind and communication, and you'll hear, like, over and over again in this constant plea to, you need to be innocent and open yourself to these things, and open your mind to these things, and invite them in. And guys, brothers and sisters, this is no different than all the stuff that's been taking place in pagan cultures for forever. I mean, in Deuteronomy 18, where God is commanding against communication with the dead, necromancy, all this stuff, look, this is back, Moses wrote this. This is what God gives to his people in terms of protecting them via his law, protecting his people from these things. This isn't new stuff. It's just got a new package. It's got a new spin, a new scientific veneer to it. But guys, I'm telling you, look, half this film is dedicated to essentially instructing people.
Yeah.
How do you do this? It's done like this. And you'll hear all of these quotations from, like, Hindus and pagan people, and it is very, very new age and occultic, and it's just really tightly packaged into this nice little thing of UFOs.
Yeah, we even heard him say there right at the end, he's looking for a higher purpose.
Yes. And look, and I'll be the first to say that the footage that you will see in it is compelling. I mean, these things appear when they're doing these seances and practicing these occultic things. They appear, they respond to them. There's some crazy stuff. And the cool thing about modern times is we have video cameras and stuff that can even film demonic interaction.
Yeah. Sorry, we've been at the whole show and without a pagan symbol question.
Oh,
no.
no.
They had to come right at the very end.
Oh, no. Well, welcome to Apologia Radio, guys. Don't believe everything you read or see on the internet. Ancient Christian symbol of the Trinity is what that is. So we're monotheists. We're really in line with the Puritans. So it'd be weird to accuse Puritans of sporting pagan symbols. We just did a whole show denouncing paganism and occultism.
Yeah, I know. And then that question.
And the question is, well, what do you have a pagan symbol? We don't. And just consider that. Hey, love you guys. Thank you so much for your support and your encouragement. Hope this show was a blessing to you. Again, you can check out the stuff we did. I think it's on All Access with Bates on alien intrusion.
I can't remember. I think we did one. Maybe one was in a radio episode, and one was Apologia TV, I believe.
Yeah, so check it out. Just look at Apologia on Google. Apologia, Gary Bates, alien intrusion.
Yeah.
It's going to come up somewhere.
Yeah.
So you see where we did that show. Good stuff. Yeah, very good stuff. And after this show, we're recording for Cultish's episodes where we're going to be talking to someone who's somewhat of a insider, making claims about occultism, the UFO phenomenon, all that stuff. Very excited about that show in particular. We've been developing it for some time. So thank you guys. Hey, go sign up for All Access. You hear me saying it. Do it. Be a part of what we're doing. Be a part of this ministry together with us. ApologiaStudios.com is where you guys go. I'm Jeff the Calm and the Ninja. That's Luke the Bear.
Peace out.
We'll catch you next week.